Hey there, you're listening to Not Another TV Podcast. This is a bonus episode with no specified date like we usually do here. My name's Drew Koenig. Joining me this week is Robyn Jeffrey, friend of the show, frequent Dimension 20 collaborator. Robyn, hi.
Hi, Drew.
How you doing?
Good. Are we acting like we didn't just talk for 20 minutes before recording?
That's how I typically do that, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm good. Hello, friends. I'm Robyn Jeffrey. I am 29. I'm from Alberta, Canada. And I talk about TV just sort of like as my thing. So I'm on the Afictionados Podcast Network. So we talk about several shows, including Riverdale, Lost, The 100, Stranger Things, and we also did Star Trek Picard for a little bit there. And, yeah, I'm excited to be here to talk about one of my favorite shows that is not a thing I podcast on normally.
It's great to have you back. You were here last year to talk about Dimension 20 as a whole, which was a lot of fun. It was a great podcast. I did want to say just briefly, and this is a side tangent. So we just did you might have seen, we did our GOAT brackets.
Yes.
Since you talk about the 100 on the show, on your podcast, Raven Reyes made it very far.
I was voting for her
in our bracket. I figured you were. So, as I promised, we are here talking about Dimension 20. Its latest season, Fantasy High Junior Year, which I have touched on briefly the last few weeks. I nominated The Last Stand for the GOAT. I've talked about various episodes. And this is a good companion piece since myself and Mads have been talking about the first season of Fantasy High and
Yes.
Escape from the Bloodkeep, and we're going to be starting the Unsleeping City very soon.
Yes, and I've been listening so respectfully, waiting for you to start Unsleeping City, so.
Just anxiously waiting. Every week, Rob is just like, okay, nope, they didn't start this week. I'm still going to listen.
Hands folded, listening so respectfully, being so patient.
Just so patient. I admire both your perseverance and your patience.
You're welcome.
Skills that I do not possess. So, yes, Fantasy High Junior Year. If I'm correct, it's the longest season yet for Dimension 20, because it was a 20-episode season.
I believe that Never After was also 20 seasons, or 20 episodes long, and I think was Fantasy High Season 2. But yes, it's up there. It's on par with the longest seasons of Dimension 20 for sure.
So let's start here. How do you think that the entire season shaked out?
I really enjoyed it ultimately. I think that it had a lot of the heart that made us fall in love with Fantasy High and the characters in the first place. I think the introduction of Kipper Lily and the Rat Grinders was like fantastic, and I also, to be honest, was like a little bit worried after the first like episode or two when we like sort of went right into the action and everything, and I was like, okay, this is not what I thought I was gonna get though when we were coming back to Fantasy High. But then I think it was episode 3 where it like started, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what I wanted. And I'm like, we're back, baby. I also really liked the introduction of the downtime stuff with like each what's it called, like different category getting a role for like a long-term type thing, and the DCs getting higher for each one, like as you prioritize them, or the opposite. I really enjoyed that, and I thought it was really cool. What did you think?
Yeah, I think I've said this previously, but I think this was certainly its strongest Intrepid Heroes season since A Crown of Candy.
Sure.
Like, I think it's just an incredible season, and I think it avoids a lot of the pitfalls that like sophomore year had, where it's like, okay, we're going, and then we just keep on going, and it both in like lore and kind of plot progression, it's like, okay, we're kind of
What I liked about sophomore year was that it was like it had a lot of heart, you know, like there was like some serious moments from like our characters that are supposed to be like goofy haha funny guys.
Right.
So I did like that, but I agree that it went on for a really long time, and especially like the bummer of an ending where now we're like in COVID times and you can watch it change and happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I it's hard for me to like rank sophomore year last in the like 3 fantasy high seasons because I really did love sophomore year. But I do think that it being live was sort of a pitfall for it. Although I do also see some some positives to doing it a little bit less in advance. I've seen a lot of people online talking about how like Critical Role records theirs like probably a couple weeks in advance. I don't actually know the exact timing that Critical Role does.
Mm.
But like rather than like they can sort of gauge the audience's not interest, but how they feel about stuff, and then they can change it based on that. Whereas with Dimension 20 they can't because they're recording so far in advance before it comes out.
Yeah, and that feels like a just overall dropout thing.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
like I was just watching an episode of Smarty Pants, and they referenced it was
Mhm.
2023. I was like, oh,
Yeah. Oh,
jeez.
exactly. We're like, babe, we're halfway through 24 at this point.
Yeah, you all
Yeah.
filmed this a while ago, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I do get your point on that. And that gets into more of a thing of like how strongly do you like listen to an audience versus like how much you're writing,
Right.
which is
Totally.
a bigger topic that I think we have time for at this
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
this subject. Um, but I do definitely see your point there. But to go back to sophomore year a little bit, like just in kind of comparing and contrasting, like there are like such high highs of sophomore year, um,
Mhm.
but like I think what separates junior year from that is like there were, and I think we talked about this last year, how like there were certain points in the like mythology and lore of sophomore year where it felt like Brennan had created a jigsaw puzzle that not even he can find his way through.
Yeah.
Um, like he had created a labyrinth that like felt unnavigable. And
Mhm.
here there's a kind of simplicity to the way the season goes,
Mhm.
like just on a pure mythos level, like the big kind of thing in the season of above the Mori is just so simple when you kind of break it down, and like in its execution and efficiency, where you're like, oh, this is actually very good. Whereas like, and that is the thing that I think separates it from like sophomore year, where it's like so much sophomore year feels like complex and dense lore, and this just feels like so utilitarian.
Yeah, like there's definitely lore in there, but it's like a little bit more carefully put down, I think.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because like I mean now that we have junior year, like we're going to get senior year, right? Like we have
Right.
to eventually. Um but I also think that like with Intrepid Heroes seasons, I often have like whatever the opposite of recency bias is, which is like I don't know, nostalgia bias or something.
Right.
But like I remember when Starstruck came out and I was like, it was my first Intrepid Heroes season watching live.
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't know, it just doesn't hit like Crown of Candy did, like Unsleeping City did, like Fantasy High did. It just doesn't hit. And now like I look back on it and I'm like, I loved Starstruck. It was amazing. And now I'm like, Never After, meh, it's okay, but it's not Crown of Candy, or like it's not, like all those things. And
Right.
but I mean, that's the difference between that and junior year, which is that like I'm going back and I'm getting my kids back. So I don't have that problem with junior year, understandably, since it's a story that we're going back to. It's a sequel.
Right. Yeah. And I agree with that. Like, I feel like Fantasy High, freshman year is like the standard that I'm constantly like putting
Mhm.
other Dimension 20 seasons against. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, it's not, it's not
Mhm.
that.
Right. Yeah, it's like Unsleeping City is my favorite season, and so I'm just like, I know none of you are going to be Unsleeping City, but you need to strive, okay? You need to go
Yeah,
try at least, okay?
yeah, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
that was the thing when I was watching like a Starstruck or Never After. I was like,
Mhm.
this is that. This is
Yeah.
like I think I said this last year. Bad Dimension 20 is still amazing, but like
Yeah, exactly.
Star Trek is
Yeah.
not my bag, and I'm fine with
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
It should be my bag, but it's not.
Yeah. I think my thing with Starstruck, and I'm pretty sure I said this last time we talked about this, but like that it wasn't, I expected more like serious moments from Starstruck, which is like, even though we've got like chuckleheads all over the place, like Fantasy High had serious moments, Unsleeping City had serious moments, Crown of Candy had super serious moments in it. And so I expected more seriousness and more like character moments, I guess, and we got a couple of those, but not enough for me to like put Starstruck up at the top
Mhm.
with like those first three. They're like the royalty of Dimension 20 to me.
Right, yeah. And I think for me, it's less serious moments and more like the distinguished writing and the plotting of it.
Mm,
You know,
sure.
like I've talked to you about like trying to view Dimension 20 in like a TV lens and I'm not
Hmm.
sure that's entirely fair to Dimension 20 because
Totally.
it is it's a web series at its heart. It's a game. It's improvisational, but
Right. But to be fair,
if we're putting it on
it's
TV,
these
we have to
same exact people who did it before, and it was improv then too,
exactly yes.
you know?
That has been the interesting thing of like the last 6 months or so watching uh, you know Fancy High freshman year and Escape from the
Hmm.
Blood Keep with Matt of like
Yeah.
seeing the ways that like it really does excel as TV. Mild digression. Uh, but yeah, like there's just like that standard that I am putting all of this on, and junior year feels like the first one in a while where I'm like, oh, you're meeting that bar.
Hmm.
That
Mm,
even
hmm.
like
Hmm.
sophomore year didn't beat, despite the great moments of sophomore year. And I do think I'm helped by this, or I'm affected by this slightly by how recently I've watched both freshman year and sophomore year,
Sure, that makes sense.
both with watching the first season for this podcast, and I couldn't stop myself from watching sophomore year.
Oh, I know. Like I look back on like the way that I did it, and I was like, here's what I did is I did Fantasy High Season 1, Fantasy High Season 2, and then I did, okay, I could do Crown of Candy or I could do Unsleeping City. Well, Unsleeping City has 2 seasons, so let's do Crown of Candy just to get it over with. So then I did Crown of Candy, and then I did Unsleeping City and then Unsleeping City Season 2. But like god, because I literally could not stop after the first season of Fantasy High. Like I
Right.
was like, no, I
Yes.
need more of those guys right now, immediately.
After we wrapped up talking about Fantasy High, I just kept on watching. So like I watched Civic City and
Mm-hmm.
Escape from the Bloodkeep and Tiny Heist and sophomore year, and it just kept going. And at a certain point, I had to be like, okay, I have to stop because if I tell myself I'll just watch a little bit of Dimension 20, I'll watch all of Dimension 20, and I won't watch
Yeah.
actual shit I need to be watching.
I just wanted to say that I genuinely like I viscerally remember the day where I was tweeting about Dimension 20 and you tweeted me back and you were like, "Hey, can you just answer me a question about this? It seems like you get a new trailer for a new season like all the time. Can you just explain why that's happening?" And now look where we are.
Look how far we've come.
And you were like, I didn't want to like it because I don't want to give you props for anything. But I do deeply enjoy and love this thing. And I was like, see, and I knew you would.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Hmm.
I wanted nothing more than to say, Robyn, you were wrong. This did
Robyn, you
not
were
happen.
wrong and your idea and opinion was dumb. But unfortunately it wasn't.
I would have paid money to be
So
able to
sorry.
say that, but that's
Yeah.
not the way that shaked out.
Well, you know what? I'll let you say it for that money if you wanted to offer it.
mm,
But you would know in
interesting.
your heart it wasn't true.
It's true. It would take all the joy out of it for me.
Yeah.
So let's get a little granular with junior year. to kind of go back to the thing you were saying at the beginning here, the
Mhm.
start of junior year is so
Mhm.
uncomfortable. Like I got like
Yeah.
the entire season had, or at least like definitely like the first half has like this tinge of discomfort, but those first two episodes, and I went back and watched it a
Mhm.
couple of days ago, are so deeply unsettling.
Yeah, and I mean that was on purpose, but I'm also like if you didn't watch those 2 episodes or only watched like the episode and a half where they were fighting, you really could just watch the rest of the season and you wouldn't be missing anything until like some of the in jokes in the season finale fight. You know?
Right, right. I agree
Yeah.
with that
It
to an
was like
extent.
mhm, yeah.
Where like I think those first two episodes are setting up so much of a vibe for the season
Yeah, sure, sure.
of like,
Mhm.
hey, junior year is really hard, and especially like Brennan as a person, as he's admitted, a person who has never went to high school, is so funny to
Mhm.
be saying this of like that time, and I think we've talked about this. Me and Mads have talked about this with like Adventure Time with where we're at of like you're at like the 16, 17-year old point of like everything you do right now matters so deeply and so much about the rest of your life, or at least the rest of like your college years, that
Mhm.
everything is bearing down on you. Um, and the stress cannot be exemplified enough, you know?
Mhm.
Um, which is where like the stress tokens and the like the downtime comes into play so wonderfully. But like
Mhm.
those first two episodes where it's just like everything is awful, everything sucks. We're just gonna keep
Well, like
fighting and fighting.
now that I've seen the whole season, I can appreciate it, but I remember like counting down the days to junior year starting and I was like I'm going to get my friends back. I'm so excited to see what the new mystery is going to be. And then the first episode has like nothing to do with that at all and I was like, "Oh, now I have to wait a whole nother week to like even, see my friends doing what I love to see them do, which is go to high school."
Hmm.
So but like I can appreciate it now that it's over, but I remember being disappointed the first week.
Right, yeah, and there is a little bit of like those first two episodes of them being so pleased with themselves with their like
Mhm.
in media res uh
Yeah.
storytelling of like, hey, here's these guys that you've never met before and we're pretend like we've known the entire time. Isn't that funny? And
Yeah.
it's funny to an extent, but the amount that they play into it, and this is kind of a Dimension 20 improvisational thing of like
Mhm.
we think something is really funny and we're just gonna keep playing into it, regardless of if other
Exactly.
people think it's super funny. um
Yeah, the improv, like, aspect of it.
yeah, sometimes that plays really well and sometimes it doesn't. um
Yeah, there's no script to say, "Allie, the bit is over." You know? I'm not even
listen
talking about this bit in particular, but sometimes it's like, "Allie, the bit is over."
listen, Allie Beardsley has never met a bit that they do not want to drive into the ground.
I know that's true.
I somewhat love Beardsley for that, but also
Yeah.
they don't have an off switch.
Yeah.
That is the thing I wanted to mention of like this feels like the first season, uh aside from like Never After sort of where we're seeing Beardsley
Mhm.
like post their transition, and
Yeah,
it
sure.
feels like it's driven them insane a little
Mhm.
bit. Just on like the other side of that,
I would
where
say that's fair.
and this is the kind of thing of how Allie plays Kristen through like every season, where Kristen is just like a little different each season. This one
Mhm.
feels radically different from like the Kristens that we've had in the past. Which is not to
Yeah,
say that Kristen
I
is
don't hate it, though.
no, it's very good. And Beardsley plays that really well. Like they know how to do those Kristen moments that feel
Mhm.
really genuine, feel really lived in, but are also just like on the verge of insanity.
I think that Kristen is giving a little bit of Margaret Encino this
Hmm.
season, and I like it.
Yeah, I don't think we want to get into Kristen fully yet because there's a lot to get into there.
Yeah.
But just to go back, those first 2 episodes are just so unsettling. They're so
You
there's
genuinely do start to be like, did I miss an episode? You really do.
I seriously, like, I said that on my serial eyes of like, it took me too long to realize that I didn't know who fucking Squeeb was.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, that's the thing is that they've done one shots in between seasons. You know, they've done
Right.
that. So it's possible that I missed a whole one shot about Squeam.
Right. Well, and even like going forward, there's like a scene with Bezrar and talking about how
Mhm.
was it Adine had freed Bezrar? No, I think it was last season where they were talking about Kristen had freed Bezrar from his like uh genie ice cream wish thing.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I definitely haven't seen that. I must have missed that somewhere. So you're
Yeah.
like, is this what's happening? Have I missed several one shots?
Mhm. What happened here? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so much of those first 2 episodes that I kind of admire in a weird way. Of like,
Mhm.
Fabian gets run over by a van twice, and you're like, that is such a bold place to start the season from.
Yeah,
Um,
jumping on tables, getting run over by vans. This guy.
a constant Fabian problem. I definitely thought that Fabian was going to die some point in the season. I know that's not how D&D works, and it doesn't foreshadow
Mhm.
in that way. But if it did foreshadow,
My like biggest fear of getting a new Fantasy High season was that something was going to happen to one of them and I would be inconsolable.
right? Yeah.
Like, imagine us being like, "Hey, it's senior year, except Riz is not here because he's dead." Like, no,
No.
no. If
No.
any of them died, I feel like we couldn't do senior year. I genuinely feel that way. Brennan would save them at this point because he would face insane backlash. You killed Gorgug again.
Again, yeah.
You
As
are an
as
enemy of the state.
yeah, we've talked about this, but like the amount that Brennan wants to kill his characters is now in opposition of the fact that he cannot kill his characters.
Right, exactly. How do you feel? Did you see in the behind the scenes that Axford didn't want to play Fig this year?
Oh, I didn't see that, but that
Yeah,
is
she said
very interesting.
she wanted to retire Fig and come in with something new. And Brennan was like, "I have stuff for Fig. Please can we play with Fig?" I can't imagine us doing a season of like it's not like on Sleeping City where we can, spoilers for on Sleeping City, but like one character died, so we bring in a new character. And then like Siobhan sort of like retired Misty and came in with Iga. Fantasy Heist just not like that because you did 2 seasons with these characters. You can't just switch them.
Right. Yeah.
I understand doing 1 season and then switching, but doing 2 seasons and then switching, we're not doing that, babe. We're not doing that.
But at the same time, you can feel that that Emily like kind of retires, like not retires Fig, but like definitely does what she can to like not do as much as she can with Fig, you know?
Hmm.
Even though I think this is a great Fig season. Like Fig
Yeah,
is doing a
totally.
lot of like big extra.
I'm like, why did we get rid of Ida though? Like, why isn't she here? You know what I mean? Like, he's like one of the complaints that I do have, which is that we all have these NPCs that we like love, and he was like, Galier's on vacation, Tracker's off doing this, Ida's off doing this. Like, hello, those are our favorites. Like, bring them back. What are you doing? That's why I tuned in. I mean, I tuned in for other reasons too, but like, I tuned
Right.
in because I wanted more Ida.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm on record. I love Ida Eggfort. She's my
Hmm.
favorite NPC.
Me
But
too.
I do think that, especially when like Brennan was constructing the season, he had a problem of I have NPCs who are too powerful,
That
and I
can
have
fix our problems.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I have PCs who are grossly overpowered.
Hmm.
Like Figure of Faith is a comically overpowered character at this point.
I mean, yeah.
So I think Brennan was like, I have to do something, or I don't have a story.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's fair, but I'm like, I just wish we had gotten more then. I know that we like occasionally got stuff, but I wish we had gotten more Ida this season. I really do.
I do feel like the Ida we got was like very good, like very spot on. It's this weird thing of like I think it's also that what I said, but also Brennan wanted to devote more time to like the rat grinders, like
Mhm.
everything that was going on with them and Porter and all that nonsense.
Yeah. I
um,
I do wonder then, like, I think that he did that pretty successfully, especially with Kipper Lily and Ruben and Buddy, and even O'Sheen to an extent, and Marianne even. But like I'm like, I think Ivy got lost in the background, and I wonder if there was going to be more for her that just ended up not happening or something. I don't know. It just feels like she's so extra that we hardly got anything from her, you know?
yeah, I don't know that the rat grinders are completely successfully executed, with like
Yeah.
their characterization, with what they're trying to do. Yeah, I don't know. I need to. Part of me feels like I need to sleep on the rat grinders a little more,
Yeah.
because I don't fully get them, and I don't fully understand the effects of rage as it's being presented in junior year.
Yeah, sure. Mhm.
I understand it well enough. That's the weird, and this is kind of getting to more into the end of the season. But like
Mhm.
the effects of rage and the way they affect certain characters and not certain characters is
Mhm.
bewildering to me. Like it affects Ruben a lot. Like Ruben is
Yeah.
a drastically different character, but we're
Yes.
meant to think that like everyone else is still who they were, but not who they were. Like
Uh-huh.
especially like O'Sheen and Ivy at the end of like, well, you just seem like the same people. Um,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like if we're not meant to think that O'Sheen is a bad dude already, um, why bring up the fact that like he has this familial connection, or like um, his
With
grandmother,
Calvaxis
yeah, his grandmother was like
or
a
whatever. Yeah.
Calvactus supporter. Like,
Mhm.
why make that choice?
Yeah.
If we're supposed to think that like O'Sheen Prime, O'Sheen without rage is like a cool dude. Other people talked about like we needed like a bigger epilogue or more time to deal with the rat grinders, and that's not how D&D works or is structured.
Yeah.
But I do understand that of like I need to understand the rat grinders like a little bit more. I understand Kimberly
Mhm.
Copperkettle with her dumb for dog name, um, and she
God love
just
her.
sucks. She just sucks so much.
I do wish that she had also not necessarily gotten like a redemption arc, but like it is a bummer that they like brought back all of the other rat grinders and they were like, it's not your fault. And then she's just like left to rot in hell, you know? Like that was kind of a bummer.
Right. I think everything going on with Kipper Lily is left. I do think that less is more in most cases, but
Mm-hmm.
everything going on with Kipper Lily is left more implicit than explicit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're meant to think by like her last scene that like she willingly took on rage,
Yeah.
and like these were choices that she made, so it's okay that she died. But again, she's a 16-year-old with
Yeah.
severe mental health issues.
Clearly.
So there's only
I did.
as hateable as she is, there's only so much I can feel like very good about that.
Yeah. I did want to say that like the scene in the glade with like Yolanda and Lucy Frostblade was like really meaningful to me. There were a couple times like I usually am editing podcasts while I'm watching,
Mm.
and there are like several times where I like dropped everything and was like, "What?" One of those times was in the glade with Lucy and Yolanda where I just had to like sit and watch, or like jaw drop because Yolanda is there and she shouldn't have been. And then another one is sorry if I mean I don't know why you're listening to this if you haven't seen it already. But like when they're like Kimberly shows up and kills Buddy in the last stand, my jaw
Oh right,
dropped. I was flabbergasted.
absolutely. Yeah, no, the Last Stand in general is just an all
Yeah.
time Dimension 20 episode. I presented this for the go back and listen to like my full case for this episode, but like and to kind of repeat myself, that entire episode is just so great because it is seeing a group of people with so much rapport and so much chemistry together, and who have been playing D&D for long enough that they are some of the best D&D players doing it right now, and some of the best
Mm-hmm.
improvisers working right now. That it all like alchemizes into like this amazing thing. Just truly, I think I compared it to like watching like the Olympics and like Team USA basketball of like, oh, these are the best people on the planet doing this thing right now. But also, Brennan is right. At a certain level, these characters make this game unplayable.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Emily is just casually rolling like 50 damage.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Totally.
I do want to talk about the downtime feature
Mm-hmm.
a little more, which you talked about a little bit earlier, but like just what a wonderful innovation of like
I
D&D
loved it, and
mechanics.
it's like something that I would definitely be interested in bringing to like my own games because it was so effective at doing what it was supposed to do.
We've both watched like a lot of like teen high school TV shows. There's always
What?
that.
I've never seen one of those.
Yeah, what?
That's not even true.
It's not even true. Never happened.
Don't put words in my mouth. I'm not starting Riverdale again.
No, not again. We're
Leave
not
me
talking about
alone.
We're not talking about Pretty Little Liars on this podcast. It's ridiculous.
So I can't, and so I can't. I don't have a comment.
It's true.
No comment.
It's true. But there's always that thing in teen shows like Teen Wolf or something where it's like these kids are in high school, but you never once they're never in class. They're never going to class. You never see them doing actual high school shit. And here it's like, no.
Okay, fine. I watched Riverdale like a lot. We did a podcast for every single episode of Riverdale as it was coming out, and we recently recorded our first episode of our Riverdale rewatch podcast where we're going through every episode again, but like, you know, in a sort of segmented more sort of way, taking less time to talk about it basically. But I have a new segment on the Riverdale podcast, which was, did they do anything age appropriate? And we just go through, we say, was this age appropriate? Yes. Was this age appropriate? No. So like they went to a school dance, age appropriate. But Archie made out with an adult, not age appropriate.
Not age appropriate. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So I feel like that's what they're always do. That's what we're doing on those teen shows where we're like, was this age appropriate?
Right.
Let's think about it for a second.
Yeah. And junior year is so much of like, here's the granular shit of like being a teenager in high school.
Yeah.
Like here's the sports stuff. Here's the you need an actual job and you need to like.
Oh, you know who else we hardly saw? Zelda. Zelda was completely gone.
I was waiting. Okay. I really
all
thought
that
season.
Gorgon was gonna try and get back with Zelda.
Right. Well,
but he just had like more things to prioritize in the downtime, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if Brendan had prepared like a Zelda thing, if Zach had wanted to do it.
Maybe. Like, I did wait the entire season because like they set that up at the beginning that like Zelda and Gorgog had broken up between seasons.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I waited the entire season of like
and like so had Kristen and Tracker.
Oh God.
But thank God they didn't do that to Fig and Ida, because I don't think I would have been able to cope or recover.
Yeah, I would not have
no
handled that well.
Everyone would have been so mad.
I would have been furious.
Yeah, and then people would be like, "Are you okay?" And you're like, two characters on the little game show that I watch broke up. Crying at work. But it's true, that's how I would feel.
That is true. Yeah, no, I waited this entire season for like someone to bring up Zelda or like Zach to do like a relationship check about Zelda, and like
yeah,
it just kind of never happened. And I guess the reason for that is just like it was a very normal, mundane breakup, you know? That,
Yeah.
like,
I'm
she
just
went
like,
off to
even
college
Mhm.
and they just didn't want to do long distance. And
Oh, yeah. I guess I'm just like, he couldn't even, like, after he had finished everything else, been like, okay, well, I guess even though the DC is like literally impossible, I'm gonna try and do relationship check just to see what she's up to.
yeah.
It's a bummer that we didn't see any of the seven, but I guess I understand why, because the only one that we could have like fairly seen without like actually bringing in their character would have, or like the actor who played them in the
Mhm.
seven, was Zelda, and we hardly did.
I did love all of the stuff with Kristen and Tracker this season.
Yeah, I'm glad. So my like three main complaints of like NPCs that we missed, other than Zelda, was Ida, Galir, and Tracker. But so like when we went to Falinel, we got Tracker stuff, and when we went to Falinel, we got Galir stuff, but we never really got Ida stuff, you know?
I have to imagine Brennan's character sheet for Ida is just so wildly
Yeah.
high.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love just the deeply messy lesbian shit of
Mm-hmm.
Tracker and Kristen. Especially like that last the finale of like
Yeah.
Tracker coming back and Kristen's like, oh, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm
that
like,
is
well,
so prototypical lesbian shit. Like just
we
deeply
have to
messy
do
lesbian shit.
senior year.
Oh my god. We do have to do senior year, but it's also that thing of like, how do you continue to like go past gods? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you've done gods twice. How do you one up that? Which is a difficult thing to say when like so much of Fantasy High involves gods in some way or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, how do you top gods? So I wouldn't be surprised if it takes many years to do senior year, just for Brennan to figure
Mm-hmm.
out what the fuck do
And
I
that's fine. I mean, he became a dad in the interim, so like take your time, bestie.
do? Right,
I'm honestly
right.
surprised that the trailer came out and Brennan is DMing the next one too. I was like, dude, take a break. I thought we just weren't gonna see Brennan for like a while. I don't expect him to be the DM or be a player in the next one after Never Stop Blowing Up.
That makes sense. Well, isn't the next one Dungeons and Drag Queens?
What do you mean?
Like, isn't the next
We
one
got a trailer this week.
Well, I mean, isn't the one after Never Stop Blowing Up?
Oh, I don't
Isn't
know
that
that.
the?
It didn't say in the FAQ. In the
Uh,
FAQ, it said any information about the next ones after this, and it said no. So I'm not sure.
Interesting. Well,
Possible.
maybe. Well, no, I might be confusing that because they announced the second season of that. So I think I
Hmm.
assumed that it would be the next one after this.
Do you watch Drag Race?
I do not.
Okay, I was gonna say, who are your like Drag Race queens that you? My dog is angry for some reason. He's maybe mad that you're not watching Drag Race. I don't know.
I
Um,
mean, it's fair.
but I was gonna ask who your like top people you would want to see on the next season of Dungeons and Drag Queens are. But I revoked my question because you wouldn't know how to answer it anyway.
I don't know how to answer that. I did. I mean,
That's
I
fine. No worries.
I did watch Doctor Who with Jinx Monsoon. I think that
Mm-hmm.
was who that was.
Yes, it was.
It was. So that is my level of familiarity with
No problem.
drag queens at the moment. Bring us back down to the downtime.
Mm-hmm.
I did so deeply feel that, like especially that moment when the episode when Adine like gets all of her shit brought down, like all of her stress tokens taken
Mm-hmm.
away from like
Yeah.
just having like an actual Oracle job, getting paid for like her
Honestly, like
Oracle stuff.
that's, I feel like, as a player, if I had had stress tokens, that would have been like one of my top priorities. Like I know that there's a lot of things to prioritize, but like not getting disadvantage on important things would be like really up there for me.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So I relate to Siobhan of being like, okay, number one, I need to get rid of these.
right,
But your
right.
relaxation has to be the last one, isn't it? Isn't that what Brendan said? Anyway,
I
but
think so.
yeah, go
Yeah,
on.
yeah. But like, especially for me, of like I think I've talked about this on the podcast of like the last like 2 or 3 months of like I moved and I was trying to figure out like rent shit and not having enough money, and
Mhm.
like there was one end of the month where I had it figured out perfectly, and it did have that sensation of like, oh, I'm good. Oh, I take away a stress token, you know, and it,
Mhm.
like that that moment for Adine where she does that is just so perfect. Like
Mhm.
it's so beautifully like encapsulates that emotion. Speaking of Adine, I didn't know that the relationship between Adine and Elwyn would become so deeply important to me through the course of the
Mm.
season.
Mhm.
Even coming off of sophomore year, which had like wonderful, beautiful Elwyn moments. The Elwyn Adine relationship is so essential to me now.
I guess I didn't really like consider that it's been like a year since sophomore year, but like to me it felt like she was not fixed, but like she was
Better.
better quicker than I expected. Like I thought there was going to be more of a gradual thing. But I guess it has been a year. I don't know. I just wish that we had seen more of the repairing of their relationship
Hmm.
than just like skipping all the way to the end where they're like back together and happy and sisters again, you know?
Right.
But I agree, it was beautiful. It was great. I'm happy that they're friends.
Yeah. Although I do think, like, canonically, it's only been like 6 months.
Yeah, so I personally think that it should have been like more of a gradual thing. Like the fact that Aelwyn went through all those traumatic things and was like, I don't know, I teach at a middle school now and I have a bunch of cats. I'm like, but did you go to therapy or like do you want to talk about that at all or are you okay? You know? I
Right.
guess living with Jawbone sort of was like going to therapy anyway, so.
Right, right. And I do think, like, not necessarily Elwyn, but like I do think that is one of the flaws in the construction of the season, where
Mm.
it feels very flimsy how much time has passed from spring break to the start of school.
Sure, yeah, that's
Where
fair.
I think
Yeah.
I think Fantasy High would have you believe that it is bigger than just a 6 month gap. Where like it
Right.
um it puts a lot of emphasis on the fact that like they've been on the road a long time, and they were on the road a long time, and they were doing a lot of stuff, and they were away from home, and
Mhm.
this like really exhausting process of going after the Night York at the beginning of this season. And this kind of goes to what you were saying, the relationship between Adine and Elwyn really depends on like them being in the same space for a considerable amount of time and working through like
Mhm.
their sisterly bond and like rebuilding that relationship. And so both of those things can't be true. Like
Yeah.
just within the confines of reality and time, both of those things can't be true at the same time. I mean, I guess they could, but it's really
Yeah.
hard.
I so like now that we've gotten a continuation of Fantasy High, Unsleeping City had 2 seasons and the end of season 2 was like the perfect ending. I literally was like, okay, well that's the button. Like we're never going to get more Unsleeping City and like that's okay because this was perfect. And then a couple was it only like a month ago? I don't know, a month and a half ago, they announced that they were doing another Unsleeping City show, like a live show at Madison Square Garden
Oh, right.
in January. Um, and I was like, oh my god, like a story that was supposed to be over is now like it's the Unsleeping City in the Unsleeping City. Like it's in New York where it
Right.
takes place. Um, and so I was like, I don't live anywhere near New York, but unfortunately I have to go. So I got tickets and I'm going to New York to see Unsleeping City live in Madison Square Garden.
That's great. I love that for
Me too.
you.
Uh, so that's like something I'm still grappling with. And every time I feel sad, I'm like, how can I feel sad when I'm going to see Unsleeping City in Unsleeping City in Madison Square Garden? Like, shut up and stop crying, you know?
Yeah, kind of to your point, I don't know if we'll ever get proper Unsleeping City like chapter 3.
Yeah, and honestly, like I don't need it. Like the end of chapter 2 is fantastic.
Right. And we've talked about like if they do chapter 3, they'll probably like kill off Lou's character.
Which I do not want, please.
No, we don't want that.
That would literally undo me, so let's not do that. Yeah, he's like 60. Please leave him alone.
Just leave that man alone.
Please leave him alone.
And I think the last thing we had to talk about with Fantasy High is Porter as a villain, which has been this unrealized threat for a while. And I think the way Brendan put it was Figure Out Fates was right season.
So what's your opinion on Porter? Would you say that like Porter was like just a guy, and then when Emily was like so weird about him, Brendan was like, no, that guy's the evil guy now. But I'm gonna make Axford think that she's crazy? Or do you think he really was, the way that Brendan says, he really was going to be the villain all along, but then Axford figured it out too early and then he like brought it to the back burner? What do you think?
I mean, that feels like Brennan cooperating with the Emily Axford bit. And just like, yeah, I don't believe this was Brennan's intention from the beginning. I think he saw something that Emily was reacting to a lot, and it was just like, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I'll make a mental note of that.
Great. Yeah, which is what makes Brennan great, is that he is constantly evolving based on the players, like totally.
So I think like sophomore year, yes, I definitely think that was his plan. Freshman year, no.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because of the like flashback that we sort of got, we know that like he was sowing the seeds of Porter during sophomore year. So yeah, you're right. Yeah. Good job.
But that reveal of Porter as the villain is so satisfying, because in that moment you get to just exist as Emily Axford, just going like, she was fucking right.
It was me.
Yeah, it's so good. I don't know how much I love Porter like in execution, like as a villain, especially like in the finale. And this kind of goes to my feeling of the finale in general, of like, it feels weird to me. Like it feels mechanically it makes sense, but like there's some part of it where like it feels like something is missing here. You know, like it feels like Porter feels so unrealized as a villain. Yeah, so like by the end of that, I'm like, yeah, he was kind of menacing and threatening, but like they were also kind of kicking his ass, you know? So it's like, I don't know how much I love that. And a lot of the finale feels like, it's fine, you know, for what I think is like an all-time season. Like the finale is very just okay. And part of that goes to what I was saying of like, these characters are just overpowered at this point. Like they're just way too proficient. Yeah, and I think like the actual like incarna of it all is just kind of fine.
Yeah.
It feels very wobbly to me. Like especially that bit of like asking all the characters like regrets or things like they're rageful about.
At the end there?
Yeah, at the end there of like, especially that moment of asking Fabian and that the bit about his dad, and it's like, this feels like a thing that we've already dealt with. You know?
Imagine if you were the first person where she was like, do you want revenge? And they were like, yeah. And then everyone else was like, no. You'd look like such an asshole. But you were first, so you didn't know you were supposed to say no.
Right. So yeah, I think a lot of that felt like really disjointed, where it's like, where is this coming from? Like, and I felt like kind of across the board as I'm really thinking about it, not just like Fabian, but like Fig's. Apparently, Fig had a big conflict with her mom about like not nosing stuff, and it's like, that feels like we're just now introducing this. Like I know Fig and her mom is like a kind of runner throughout all of Fantasy High, but like that didn't feel present in the season.
Well, yeah, because I feel like the Fig and Sandra Lynn of it all happened like at the end of season 1, and then Sandra Lynn was like around for season 2, and so like I definitely like I don't even remember that. Why were they fighting
yeah,
in
and
season
then
3? I don't
yeah,
even
and then
remember.
like Riz feeling bad about like pushing uh Fig and Grissom. It's like, no, you were supposed to be doing that. Like that's the appropriate.
Honestly, Drew, Riz hit so different for me this year in like the best way.
Right. Yes.
I don't even know how to explain it properly. Like in season 2, I was like, I love Riz. Season 1, Riz was like middle of the road for me. Season 2, I was like, oh, Riz is the best, especially after he got to like talk to his dad about, I mean, not
Mhm.
in those words or whatever, but basically like about him being Ace and everything means a lot to me as an Ace person, of course. But this year, like, I don't know, but everything he did, I was like, that's me. I'm watching me on screen right now. Like every
Mhm.
single time everyone would be like, "Hey, stupid idea." He'd be like, "Not stupid idea." And I'm like, "That's me."
Right.
Every
Yeah.
single thing I did, I was like, "That's the light of my life right there." That's like somehow Riz became my favorite bad kid. I don't know what happened, but he is now.
No, this is an excellent Riz season.
Totally.
Riz is doing things across the board that is just great. Between like accepting rage tokens for other people, or like really trying to map out like everything for like Kristen and Fig, or
Mhm.
just like all of his investigation shit, or like his final
Taking
interaction with
stress
Kipper Lily.
tokens for other people, and he's the only one who's allowed to take stress tokens for other people.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not the most relatable thing you've ever heard? Having stress for other people's decisions?
Yeah,
That's like,
totally.
oh, Riz is just everything to me this season.
Yeah, no.
Poetry.
On that note, you relating to Riz so strongly. I
Mhm.
related to Fig so strongly this season.
Mhm.
On the level of I was a bad student. You
Mm.
know, I wasn't a misbehaved student. I wasn't disruptful or disrespectful. I was just I did not fit in within like a school structure, and the
Mhm.
way that like teachers understood education. Um,
Yeah.
so I did not want to be in class, and especially like the last 2 years of high school, I took
Mhm.
every possible opportunity I could to not be in that class, be in any class I was
This
supposed to
was
be in.
not my experience
Yeah, I hated
because I
school.
was Riz, obviously.
Obviously, yeah, but like I hated it so much, I didn't want to be in class, and like every moment of Fig being like, eh, I could go to class, but also I don't want to.
Yeah.
It's just so like deeply relatable to me. Also, I feel like Adine had a great fucking season. Like, just
Yeah.
Adine was doing things like across the board that's just like fucking great. Every time that
Mhm.
Adine would decide a role for someone else, that is top tier television for me, baby.
Mhm.
Like every time that Adine would be like, or someone else would be like, I rolled in that one, and Adine would be like, no, you didn't. You rolled a 15. I was like, that's great.
So good.
Like, it gave me chills each and every time.
Mhm.
Like it's such a good mechanic. It's such like Shaban has like such a great understanding and familiarity with like not just like everything that Adine can do, but just like Adine herself. That's just
Yeah.
it's really chef's kiss, just like every single
Yeah.
bit.
I really love Siobhan, and I also, Adine is another character that I relate to a lot too. If there was a Fantasy High the musical, I would play Adine.
Right. I love her so much. One of the biggest laughs I got all season was the interaction that Adine has with like the elven like royalty
Oh yeah.
person, the elven like
Yeah.
council guy. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and just trying to explain that fetch isn't a word that anyone uses anymore.
Yeah.
And just a line of and I think I put this on my serialized of so fetch is gone and there is no replacement.
Yeah.
There is no heir. That made me laugh so hard for no reason whatsoever. It's just an
Mhm.
excellent way that Brennan delivers that. Um,
So good.
it's outstanding. One rat grinder that I really want to talk about very quickly.
Is it
But it's
Marianne?
Marianne. Marianne. Um,
Yeah, good.
I love her.
Me
She's
too. Me too.
delightful. Um,
She's everything to me.
Brendan has found another autistic character to play,
Mhm.
um, and
She doesn't
she's
replace Ida, but she almost does.
almost like she's
You know?
so good. Like Brendan talked about this in the adventuring parties, but like just like the sheer simplicity of Marianne, where it's like she's at
Yeah.
school, she doesn't really
She
want to
just
be
wants to
there,
play
but
with
she's
her
not
Koki
opposed to
pet.
being there, and it's just like yeah,
Yeah.
she wants to play like her dumb little game and like
And go
have
on the
like
forums for Koki pet.
right, and just drink like mango soda, and
Yeah, and
there's
that's it.
yeah, it's just the weird high school
And wears the
students.
same outfit every single day. Like that's
Oh,
just a high schooler. That's a realistic high schooler.
it's the most realistic high schooler that
I
that
truly wore the
fantasy has.
same thing basically every single day.
She's so good. Like, and it's
Yeah.
just it is the casual nonchalance weirdness that Brendan plays
Mhm.
that character. Like, if you told her she was weird, A, she wouldn't care,
True.
but also she wouldn't understand.
Did it make you upset in real life?
So
Like, oh, Jesus.
yeah, I love her. I want like a million more moments with Marianne. Uh,
Yeah.
well, because there are moments earlier in the season, like when they're like researching the rat grinders and like they're getting into like their files, and there's that moment of there's a mention of like Kipper Lily is upset because Marianne never takes anything too seriously.
Mhm.
There's and I remember thinking like, what the fuck is Marianne's deal? And it's like, no,
Yeah.
she's just
Doesn't have a deal.
she is weird and off-putting. That
Yeah,
is her
that's it.
entire thing. Just an inspired character. We're running a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I do.
Mhm.
I wanna drift away from Fantasy High real quick, and I want to talk about Dropout just in general for like
Okay.
for a hot minute. So I've watched a lot of Dropout stuff in the a year and a half ish since we last
Mhm.
talked. Um,
Mhm.
so like I watched like all of Game Changer, all of Make Some
Mhm.
Noise. I watched some.
Mhm.
Actually, the thing that I'm sure lots of people love about Game Changers, and it's the thing I also love about that show, is the amount that Brennan is the subject of a psychological experiment.
Uh-huh.
It's so good, especially this season. Like the current season of Game Changer that we're in feels like
Mhm.
Sam Reich is going out of his way to torment Brennan in every single way that he can.
I loved the first half of the Game Changer finale that came out this week.
Yes.
Sorry if I'm like sticking us in time too much because I know you said it was going to come out like I don't know at some point in the future.
I mean, it's probably gonna come out like
But the fact that Brendan was like, I like that I'm sitting and just chatting with my friends this episode, and nobody's like trying to make me lose the game or like being mean to me. I mean, somebody is like choosing to mock me throughout the entire game, but like whatever, I guess.
hmm
So good.
yeah. Uh, I think about the bingo episode in particular,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that
um,
was a good one. I
where
can't believe it wasn't necessarily supposed to be Brennan.
oh yeah, but like the entirety of that episode, you can see Brendan just being like, "This is a bullshit concept.
Yeah.
This is a
This is stupid.
dumb
Nothing's actually happening.
yeah, this is the
Nobody's
boring
gonna think this is
concept."
interesting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's like, "I'm gonna do whatever I can with this,
Yeah.
and just kind of run with it." And then like when like the conceit gets revealed to him, there's that moment where you see him sit down and
Yeah.
look like he's having a mental
It's
breakdown.
just over.
It's just over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um yeah. Between everything on Game Changer and Allie Beardsley trying to ruin his life on Fantasy High this year,
Uh-huh.
which I don't think we even talked about.
Oh, sure. Yeah. K2.
Yeah, K2.
That was Siobhan. That was Siobhan's fault, though.
That was Siobhan's
Siobhan's the
fault.
one who made K2.
I did love both of those instances, by the way, of
Yeah.
Brendan just being like, I'm done. I'm out. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm finished. This is so stupid.
Just the amount of done on that man's face. And it was only made better by like the adventuring party after that. I think it was the adventure party after like that first one, where Brennan is just giving credits to like all the art department people. And it's just the dead, most soulless listing of names that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It felt like this man's soul had just been like sucked out of his body.
And it had.
It truly had.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those Game Changer episodes are just fucking great though.
Yeah, the newer seasons have been fantastic.
Make Some Noise is great though. Unqualified greatness. Like the Brennan, Izzy, and Erica episode that they did last year was outstanding. And then like the other series, like Smarty Pants, which premiered recently, is also equally enjoyable.
Yeah. So far I feel like I've been like I really enjoyed the first episode, and then for the other 2 episodes that have come out so far, I've like there's usually 3 presentations in each episode, and I've only like really cared that much about one of them so far.
Right.
But I'm excited to see what's upcoming.
Yeah, I always like to like, and this is just me in general, I always like the weird swings, you know?
Yeah.
So like the presentations where it's like, what if a bird wants to fuck your girlfriend? That's just a weird take to do, and it's like, I appreciate that. Thank you. No, I think I really liked Vic's presentation of vegetables aren't real. Which is true. Vegetables aren't real. If you don't like to eat vegetables, you are a child, but vegetables aren't real.
I mean, some of the other shows that they do that I really like, Very Important People came out recently, Dirty Laundry, Play It By Ear, Thousand Dares just started.
Right. I do like Dirty Laundry.
I think Dirty Laundry is one that you can enjoy, even if you don't know the people in it. I think sometimes the shows are like, if I don't know who these people are, then they're not as fun. But Dirty Laundry, I do like no matter who it is.
And Dirty Laundry is especially fun just for like the fun like Grant asides, which is I'm noticing is a trend for like Dropout in general. Of like, we can just put Grant in here.
Yeah.
Like I know they've done that with like actually, and Smarty Pants has Grant there pretty much every week.
Yeah, my thing about them always choosing Grant though is that when one of them chooses Grant, then they're all gonna choose Grant, and I'm like, you guys, if it's not Grant, one of you gets 3 points. You can't just all choose Grant. Think about this strategically.
Right. But if it's a fucked up one, it's probably Grant.
But either way, Grant doesn't get any points if you don't guess him.
Right.
You know, so like.
But I also really enjoy the cocktail presentations that Grant does for Dirty Laundry. Just as someone who works in liquor.
Sure.
I like that. And I did watch, I watched an episode of Very Important People. I watched the Zach one, I think.
I think that the Zach one and the Izzy one, like the Izzy one was my favorite of the season.
The Zach one is just so wonderfully off kilter.
Yeah. I liked the Alley one too. The Alley one was pretty good too.
Yeah.
But some of them I was like, this is a bit weird for me. Even for a Dropout, this is a little bit weird.
It has been fun for me over like the last year of, you know, going through all these shows and like watching like the regular people of Dropout. And the ones that like really like come to the forefront for me. So like, you know, Vic and all of the Intrepid Heroes and like Grant and Katie and Jacob, who has emerged of like a stealth like MVP of Dropout.
Yeah.
Like really surprising. Like,
That's why I'm so excited he's going to be on the new season.
yes,
Finally.
it's gonna be
After Dimension 20.
it's gonna be so good.
Yeah.
Never Stop Blowing Up has a fully great lineup of characters or lineup of players. Like,
I'm really excited. It's giving Jumanji, and I'm pumped.
Yes, because what we got: Jacob, Ali, Izzy, Iffy,
Alex, who was in Mentopolis,
right? Alex, and
then
who was the other one?
One more for sure.
Reika, yes, Reika, who is just a great. I love Reika in everything.
Yeah.
Whenever Reika shows up, I'm never like, oh, that's disappointing. Like, great, she's always great. One of my favorite Dropout people, especially when she's paired up with Grant.
Oh yeah, them in Mice and Murder together was really good. I really liked Mice and Murder.
Oh, I don't
because it was the only time that Grant and Sam have ever played, and I thought both of them were so freaking good. I was just like, bring them back, please.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched Mice and Murder.
That was the first season that I watched live.
Oh.
Because when I first started watching Unsleeping City Chapter 2 was airing, which I obviously couldn't watch.
Right.
So Mice and Murder was the first one that I watched live, and I really liked it. It was like still the COVID seasons, but it was a little bit more produced than the previous ones, like Pirates of Leviathan,
Right.
which was literally just them on Zoom. And sort of Unsleeping City Chapter 2. But yeah, I really liked Mice and Murder. It was like Sherlock plus Clue. Like, it was great.
Yeah, no, I watched the episode of them on Game Changer, the murder mystery episode.
Yeah.
and just the way that episode like devolves at the end, and Reika, I think, just calling Grant a dumb slut at the end. Very funny. I think I've watched that episode like 3 times, and it makes me laugh each and every time. So that is our talk on Fantasy High Junior Year plus some Dropout. As I said, we'll be talking about the Unsleeping City in our regular episodes pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. So Robyn, where can we find you online?
First of all, Drew, thank you so much for having me. My favorite thing about being on your podcasts is that I don't have to edit it.
I can see how that would be a plus.
Thank you so much.
I feel the same way. Being on your podcast.
I love that. Right. Yeah, you can follow me personally at Robyn E. Jeffrey pretty much everywhere. ROBYNEJEFFREY. And you can also find me podcasting and talking about other TV shows at The Afictionados. If you just go on your favorite podcatcher and search The Afictionados, then all of our podcasts should come up. And yeah. That's it, I guess.
Nice. And you can find me on Twitter at the Drew Koenig. I am also on Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram with some variation of my username that I don't remember right now. There's so many now. One day we really have to talk. We really have to have a conversation about why there's so much social media now, and I don't like it. And why it is necessary for anyone that does like any kind of online like media creation stuff. Like, I don't appreciate this. But anyway, you can find me at all of those places, and I'm also on Letterboxd and Serialize, where I'm doing lots of goofy, weird things, and for some reason,
at Robyn E. Jeffrey.
Yes, and for some reason, a silly Pretty Little Liars review is going viral on Serialize for reasons that I cannot explain to you. It has like 45 likes right now, and I don't fully understand why that is.
Congrats.
You can follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Not Another TV Podcast. And you can email us at notanothertvpodcast@gmail.com with anything you would like to send our way, including listener questions, goat submissions, show recommendations. As I said in our previous episode, we are starting a Discord server, so be sure to find the link in the episode description here and also on our Twitter, and join that where we'll be having, I'm sure, weird and off-kilter conversations about television and anything TV related all throughout the week. We are also on Tumblr, also at Not a TV Podcast. You can find previous episodes of the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and YouTube, plus Spotify. And you can find previous episodes on our Libsyn feed, libsyn.com/Not Another TV Podcast. Until next week, please remember, guys, you shouldn't go in the ocean. That's true. Stay out of the ocean. But also, you must always honor the cock. Thank you. Good day.
So true.